participants, so I'll just dive into the session. So this session is hello, yeah, okay. So this session is basically of giving you an intro on the current EV policies in India, as well as the upcoming EV policies in the due course of time. And just to provide you an introduction of electric vehicles are not the major technological innovations in the current time. So electric vehicles were invented way back in 1895 to 1905, and they were widely used as daily commute taxis. And the reason for and sudden boom in especially in the automotive industries is basically to the global context scenarios as well as to Indian context scenarios as well. So I'm going to explain you the reasons as well as factors which influence the huge development of electric vehicles in global context as well as in Indian context as well. So I'm going to start the session by explaining you the key forces which led to the rapid adoption of electric vehicles in a global context of view. Yeah, I think someone has actually raised their hand. Yeah, if the participant has any doubt, it would be a good one to solve the doubt. So coming on to the global context, right? So historically, I can say that mobility as well as the fossil fuels have been inextricably linked with electric vehicles, being successful only in a few niche markets, say Chinese or other electronic major hub markets. So, however, over the last decades, right, a collection of circumstances have been conspired to create an opening for electric mobility. So, you can see a rapid boom as well as a race for various OEMs. So, every OEM is trying to be a pioneer or wants to be on the innovation side of developing very innovative concepts in the field of electric vehicles. And you can see that over the last decade, a collection of circumstances have basically conspired to create an opening in electric mobilities in order to enter the mass market. So there are several forces, and the key forces for the rapid adoption of this technology is basically the climatic change. So when I say of climatic change, it's basically the prospect of rapid global temperature increase that has caused the need for a reduction in the fossil fuel demand because of the rising prices in the fossil fuel in India, which is around 101 rupees at the moment per liter. So I believe India is generally committed to the Paris Agreement to cutting the greenhouse emissions intensity by 33 to 35% by 2030. So in order to meet the Paris Agreement aims, so it is on the rails to meet this demand as well, basically due to the climatic change. And the second one is basically the advances in renewable energy. So when I say renewable energy, it's basically solar, geothermal, nuclear. So over the last decade, right, there have been several advances in wind and solar electric generations, and which have drastically reduced their cost as well as introduced the possibility of clean, low carbon, and inexpensive grids. So India has been proposed to add around 175 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2020. So until and unless the grids are being charged with the help of renewable energy, so we need to find a sustainable solution to harness renewable energy as much as can by all the available resources. And the third point is basically the rapid urbanization. So when I say rapid urbanization, it's basically the economic development, especially in emerging economics like India, and then which is all about creating a wave of urbanization as rural populations are generally moving to cities in search of employments as well. And then the fourth point is basically the data capture and analysis. So when I say data capture and analysis, I think everyone has the smartphones available with each and every person in the world. So which generally has a GPS enabled into the smartphones that is generally associated with University of Mobile Applications. So it's going to be under a digital revolution, and the digital revolution has generally created a possibility of greater utilization of existing resources. So in case, for example, if you want to transfer or transport those short commute distance, right? There are several electromobility concepts that are in play. For example, like Yulu. And then the global context, the fifth point is basically the battery chemistries. So if you see the advances in battery technology, right, it has led to a higher increase in energy densities. So when I say energy density, it's basically stacking large amount of energy in a particular kg of the battery pack, which has led to the fastest charging, as well as it has also reduced battery degradation due to charging effects as well. And the sixth point is energy security. So the petrol, diesel, and the CNG that is needed for an IC engine based mobility system requires an extensive, costly supply chain. So you might have been seeing several photos on Instagram or various social medias that the ocean in Mexico is under fire because of the burst in the pipelines as well, which causes various destruction to the supply chain, as well as ocean pollution harming the aquatic life as well. So the ratio is set to grow as rapidly urbanizing population is demanding for a greater intercity as well as intercity mobilities. So in case if there's any doubt regarding the EV technologies or hybrid technologies, the participants can stop me anytime between the sessions so that we can have an interactive session. And I'll try to clear the void as much as I can with the specified doubt. So the participants are free to unmute themselves and ask the query whenever they want. And coming on to the Indian context, right? The Indian automotive market is very, very, what I can say is very interesting compared to the world market. I'll give you several reasons why it's so in the next coming technical details. So when I see in the Indian context, right? So in India, a particular set of circumstances are very, very conducive to a sustainable mobility program, or I can say a paradigm, which has actually created an opportunity to accelerate adoption of EVs. So I can just use this current context where the fuel prices are very, very high. So I think it's a wider penetration rate for the EV vehicles adoption at a faster rate in India because of the rise in fuel prices. So this is one of the context for larger adoption of electric vehicles in India. And then when I see the key factors, right? So there is a relative abundance of exploitable renewable energy resources in India, and a universal culture that accepts and promotes sharing of assets. So if I see these circumstances, right, the position India to pursue an EV policy systematically ensures that Indian EV program places a very key place in a global scale. And India has been a large contributor in the GDP values in the recent economies, as well as a large economy seen to take place a significant step towards electrification of the vehicles. So if I see the key objectives for EV policies in India at the moment is basically reduce the primary oil consumption in transportation, so which can also reduce the rising burdens of of petrol or diesel prices to the consumer. And then it also focuses on facilitating customer adoption of electric and clean energy vehicles. And the third point I would say is basically encouraging cutting edge technologies in India through adoption, adaptation, as well as through various R&D labs. And then reduce pollution in various cities, especially I believe in Delhi and the NCR region, and also facilitate employment growth in sunrise sectors. So if you see the EV policy in India as well as the Indian auto industry today, the key difference that you see in Indian automotive industries as well as in other countries is basically the type of vehicle that's being used. So India uses a large variety of motorized transport on roads, and its auto segments are quite different from the most of the world that you can see from the type of form factor vehicle that they use in India. So if I take on average the last 6 years of sales data, right? So two wheelers generally account for 79% of the total number of vehicles. The three wheeler account for 4%. The buses as well as large goods account for 3%. And yes, sir. Okay. And the premium four classes generally account for 2%. So if you see the general overall summary of the Indian automotive market, it's completely dependent on two wheeler market. And then if you want to see in a longer term, right, I believe India should establish technological as well as manufacturing leadership in the economy segment of the market. So I'm gonna like justify these points in my coming details, technical details. Yeah, and then if you look up at the shared mobility, say for example, when I say shared mobility, I'm just giving you the examples of Uber as well as Ola for your info. So taxi aggregators such as Ola and Uber have increased their they have increased their sales from overall, I believe, from 130 million rides in 2015 to almost to 500 million rides in 2016. So, and I believe the taxis almost account for 72%. Yeah, 72% of the overall market. So, EVs generally have a high penetration rate of shared mobility in India. So, which also increases the both the vehicle utilization and also plays a very key economic advantages of EVs. And it also creates a natural as well as a large scale supplies for EVs. So these are the key reasons which is on a forefront for rapid EV adoption in India. So I've also specified you the rapid key factors that play an influence role in the global circumstances as well. But everything comes to a limiting factor also. So if you see at the battery chemistries, right? So battery is basically the heart of an electric vehicle. So the limiting factor of batteries are basically the range and performances. So these are the two critical parameters that are supposed to be addressed, and you're also supposed to develop an ecosystem for fast charging or else for swapping the batteries. So swapping the batteries is basically replacing the existing batteries and adding a new batteries in the system on your drive. So you just gonna pause your drive, replace the batteries, and then you're gonna continue your journey. And I believe this can be achieved by creating a requirements infrastructure as well as ensuring that there's a charging station on each and every kilometer. So the key factors are basically providing charging infra, increasing the efficiency of the vehicle. So when I say increasing the efficiency of the vehicle, I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm incentivizing the developments to increase the vehicle efficiencies. So whereby I can reduce the energy consumption and enable to a vehicle to travel the same distance on a similar battery pack. So I'm basically increasing the range of the vehicle. So when I say the range of the vehicle, it's basically the mileage of the vehicle, and it also depends upon the tires that's being used as well as the aerodynamics of the vehicle in play. And one of the key factors that hinders the engineering principles is basically reducing the weight of the vehicle and also ensuring that the weight of the vehicle, sorry, the structure of the vehicle is under a safety conditions as well. So as I said earlier, that the batteries are going to dominate the cost of electric vehicles. So as per the research done by Bloomberg, the cost of the batteries have been slashed by one third. So it's basically $100 per kilowatt hour, and the price have been slashed to over one third percent over the past 5 years. So I believe it's a good strategy to use battery chemistries with optimized cost as well as chemistries that are suitable in order to be used with enhanced performance characteristics in Indian temperatures. And the third point would be like exploring the new battery chemistries where you're supposed to develop new batteries that can meet the performance required by the customers as well. So these are the current. I'm just going to talk about the current EV policies in India. So you might be aware that there's a new policy. So there's an extended policy called as FAME 2. So FAME 2 is basically stands for faster adoption and manufacture of electric vehicles. So the central government has generally increased the subsidies of electric two wheelers and also extended a 2 year extension to the policy. So under this, hello, yeah. So in order to be eligible for the subsidy of this vehicle, there are three requirements. So I'm just going to specify the requirements. So the minimum range of the vehicle should be 80 kilometers, and the minimum top speed of the vehicle should be 40 kilometers per hour. And moreover, the ex showroom price must not be greater than 1.5 lakhs. So if the vehicle meets all these three parameters, the vehicle is eligible for a FAME to subsidies. So under FAME to subsidies, right, the key motive is basically uh, this move will generally benefit electric vehicle motorcycles as well as provide a better penetration ratio into the market, especially for scooter customers. And the central government has increased the subsidy under second phase of FAME 2 policies, wherein by making the vehicle 50% more affordable. And the subsidy that's been issued by the central government will now be available at I believe at rupees 15,000 per kilowatt hour for almost two for a two wheeler, and shall be capped upon to 40% of the total vehicle cost. So the key advantage of FAME 2 policy, especially in two wheeler market, is increasing the penetration of the electric vehicles, as well as encouraging the customers to purchase the vehicle and then further Indianize the investments in EVs. And apart from FAME to central government subsidies, there are several state government incentives which is going to support the customer in order to adapt the EVs. So it might be basically like slashing the taxes, slashing the registration fees, etc. So if I talk upon the future scope of the policies, right? So if I see the future scope of the policies, there are various innovations that needs to be carried out in the EV space, so which can continue to take place. And I wish that the policy environment must be moved to a favorable conditions over the years. So it's basically like a wait and watch scenario at the moment. So coming on to the future talks, right? So India is basically on a mission to become an EV nation by 2030. So you might be aware of several OEMs that have been invested a lot of the technology resources as well as their financial structures into the development of EVs. So for example, Tata Motors recently announced to manufacture and release 10 new electric vehicles by 2025. And also the Mahindra Electric is going to set up a R&D infrastructure in Bangalore in order to promote as well as develop various powertrain configurations to their vehicles. And you might also be aware that the Ola has also launched Mission Electric to scale up the production to pop out, I can say, 15% of world e-scooters. And it is also aiming to put 10,000 EVs on the road in the coming days. And also has announced the creation of exclusive network, I say, to charge 1 lakh vehicles called Ola Hyper Network. So, and it is expected to come up in almost, I believe, like in 400 cities in the next 5 years. And as per the news, it says it also has a plan to invest almost $2 billion in the charging infrastructure. And then, according to the recent study by SMEV, so SMEV stands for Society of Manufacture of Electric Vehicles. So this is an organization only for the companies who manufacture electric vehicles. So as per the data, I believe that there are almost 1,800 charging stations as of March 2021. And as per the recent data, right, India almost needs around 4 lakh charging stations to meet the requirement of 2 million EVs. So that counts for potentially plying the roads by 2026. So these are the current future missions of Indian government to penetrate the EV infra. And then as per Grant Thornton report, so I believe if the participants feel it boring because of the policies, they can just raise their hand or unmute themselves to ask the queries. So I can have an interaction session to them to just clear up the void and ensure they understand the concept. So there are almost like 61 participants, so they can raise their hands or unmute themselves so that we can have an interaction on the EV technologies or any technologies regarding to electric and hybrid vehicles. So feel free to unmute yourself, or send a question in the chat box. So I believe it's audible right now, Mr. Rohit. So you can unmute yourself to ask the questions related to electric and hybrid vehicle technologies, uh, or send a question in the chat box. So I'll try to answer as much as I can. Yeah, I believe someone has actually raised their hand. So yeah, you can ask the question, sir. Yes, Mr. Ranjan. Yeah, you can ask your question. Okay. So someone has actually raised their hand, so they can unmute themselves and Ask a question. Okay. Okay. There's a question from Nuraj Khan. How much time will the charging station need to charge a vehicle? So okay. So in order to start from the basics, Mr. Khan, so there's something called as battery capacities, which is always expressed in Ah. So there are several types of charging levels. Basically, level one chargers, level two chargers, as well as level three chargers. So level one chargers are basically used in your house outlet. So basically, similarly like the plugs wherein which you charge your laptop, right? So these are basically three-phased AC plugs with a voltage rating of 230 volts, 50 hertz. And so you need to convert AC electrical energy to DC in order to charge the batteries. So level one chargers can take almost 8 to 12 hours, depending upon the age rating of the batteries. And in order to reduce the charge time and also ensure a faster speed drive to the customer, there's something called as level two. So basically, under level two, it's basically capped from 6 to 10 kilowatts. So, and these chargers are used in electric two, three, and four wheelers, and can almost take 2 to 4 hours to charge your vehicle. So it depends upon the level of the type of charger you're using, whether it's under level one or level two chargers. Yeah, any more questions? Okay. So there's a question from Shoyang. How can India's power grid be expanded to practically accommodate electric vehicles, even though there are considerable number of household regions in India with no access to electricity at all? Yeah, it's a nice question. So as I said earlier, that India has a large number of renewable energy resources. So I believe every village in India is electrified as per the recent data given by the Ministry of Heavy Industries as well as the Electrical Department. So the key way in order to charge the vehicles without affecting the grid or without ensuring that the failure of the grid is uh, developing a charging infrastructure by using sustainable energy or renewable energy, I say, through the use of solar energies, nuclear energies, without affecting the grid. So I believe India has a highest solar radiation of around 350 watt per meter square. So when I say solar irradiance, it's the amount of energy that Earth can receive from the sun on a particular meter square of area. So I believe India has a large potential to, and I believe India is also large manufacturer of solar energy across the globe. So I believe that that's not a problem. Yeah, there's a question, but sir, it's not possible to. Like, can you just unmute yourself and ask the question, Mr. Nurjan Khan? I'm not actually getting you. You're just specifying it. It's not possible. Yeah, okay. If the charging station need at least 2 hours, it may be waste of time. So, in order to reduce your time, there's something called as battery swapping as well. So, what you're going to do is you're just going to swap the batteries. So, you're just going to pick up the batteries, place it in. Yeah. So, you're just going to swap the batteries. So, you're just picking up the battery and placing it in a destination station, and you're using a new pack. So, almost the swapping time can also be done in 2 minutes. So, that's not a problem for electric two wheelers. And then there's a question from Mr. Neelesh Singh. So, what will be the effect of charging discharging cycle on the battery life and capacities? And when we are using fast chargers? Okay, nice question. And also in the present scenarios, we don't see any good battery capacities. Yeah. So, first I'll clear your question, which says, just a second. What will be the effect of charging and discharging on the cycle of the battery on life and capacities? Okay. So whenever you're using or deploying batteries in the vehicle, right, you're supposed to follow the manufacturer's criteria. So in order to ensure that the batteries operate in an optimum range, you need to configure the Goldilocks zone. I call it as a Goldilocks zone, wherein which you're supposed to use the batteries in a configured temperature region. So as per my data analysis, as per my working in the company, the proper temperature range for batteries to be used is basically between 25 to 35, 25 to 45 degrees centigrade. So if you ensure that the battery operates in these conditions, the life of the battery is sustained. But there are chances when you're going on a uphill or during cruising on a highway, the battery is subjected to high current rates, so which causes high internal resistance as well, which causes capacity fade. So when I say capacity fade, it is basically loss of capacity in the cell. So we are reducing the life of the cell. So in order to reduce the life of the cell, we use something called as thermal systems. So it's called as thermal battery management systems, such as air cooling system, liquid cooling system, as well as immersion cooling system, cold plate refrigerant cooling system. And then fast chargers also degrade the life of the batteries, I agree, but once you ensure that the batteries work in an optimum region, so the capacity as well as the life of the batteries are sustained, so that's not a problem. So, and the next question says, in the present scenarios you don't see a good capacity batteries, I think you need to talk to the battery supplier because or I think you need to choose a particular chemistry of a cell or a manufacturer who meets your requirements. So I'm going to talk of battery chemistries like NCA, NMC, as well as lithium titanium monoxide. It also depends upon the battery chemistry used so that it meets the Indian temperature standards. So and then there's the next question from Mr. Nujan Khan. So if the charging station, okay, I think I've actually answered it. And then there's a question from Mr. Hari Prashant Prasad. So if the battery specification is going on higher, its weight would also be increased and the mileage will also be decreased. Yeah. So what we do is for the first question, in order to provide a low weight standard to the battery pack, we first figure out the criteria called as energy density. So energy density gives you a first approximation. I don't say it's a confirmation, it's just an approximation of the battery mass. So you're trying to use lightweight chassis materials in the body of the vehicle so as to reduce the weight as much as it can. But sometimes there is also an increase in the weight of the vehicle which ensures better stability of the vehicle because the CG of the vehicle is very low, which enables a faster cornering too as well. So so there's a relation between mass as well as the speed of the vehicle. So so the vehicle is basically designed as per the specs, so that's not a problem. And the second question is, in case of any short circuit or else due to high heat region, there could be a chance of malfunction in the circuit in between some rural areas. What could be the solution? So this phenomenon is basically called as thermal runaway, especially in the industries. Yeah. So as you said, yeah, there are chances of internal short circuit, and this phenomenon is basically called as thermal runaway. So in order to avoid thermal runaway scenarios, we generally use something called as battery thermal management systems, uh, which can reduce the impact. And then there's next question from Mr. Balakrishna. How to calculate the solar panels battery motor in the force of 50 newtons in the agriculture vehicle use? Sir, I believe we are supposed to use an equation for tractive effort. So tractive effort is basically giving you the rough estimate of the force required to propel the vehicle. So it's the required force required to propel the vehicle. So once you have the tractive force equation, you're supposed to substitute the values, which is basically the vehicle parameters, and configure the energy required. So once you have the tractive force required, you're supposed to multiply it with the time or the velocity of the vehicle, and then integrate it with energy, integrate the power value with energy, so you're going to get the desired battery capacity. So the next question is, we can get any participation certificate. So I have no idea, I think you need to contact Mr. Abhijit Saha. And then there's the next question from Miss Chomu 566. So one new idea for me to charge the battery sometime. It's important for some persons, but these places were placed where solar panel automatically it has no spend. So I didn't get your question, sir. Sorry. And then this next question from Mr. Nilesh Singh. What method are employed to protect the internal circuits and machine to protect from adverse conditions like high temperatures or adverse weather conditions? Yeah, yeah. As I said, you have something called as battery thermal management systems, wherein which you ensure that the batteries work in an optimum desired range as per the manufacturer data, and also eliminate the thermal runaway scenario. So in the local terms it's called as short circuit, but in technical details it's called as thermal runaway scenarios. So you have battery thermal management systems, and it's not a worry because all the battery packs are basically IP65 certified. I believe Mr. Ranjan Dey should mute himself or just ask a question because there's a lot of void from him. Yeah, thank you. And then this next question from Shoying. How soon can we expect to see batteries with energy density such that EVs can have a range similar to the fossil fuel cells? Sir, to be very honest with you, electric vehicles have a high range compared to the fossil fuels. It's very much cheaper, but I believe it's just the energy or the calorific value which is a bit different. But there are several chemistries, say for example lithium metal batteries or zinc air batteries or zinc aluminum batteries. So there are several chemistries that can be deployed to increase the efficiency of the vehicle. And since there are less moving parts in the electric vehicle, it's almost 95% efficient. But if you see an ICE engine, it has a thermal efficiency not more than 25%. So it's three times greater than ICE engines. So there's a next question from Mr. Hari Prashant. So if we are going on ride in hills areas, will it provide a required torque to pull the vehicle? Yes, sir. Because the electric motors, as you know, the principle of electric motors that it delivers high torque at 0 RPM, and you have something called as cruise control system in the modern vehicles, so that's not a problem to you. And also you have an single gearbox that's been attached to the motor to develop the desired torque, so that the vehicle can propel on a uphill or a gradient. So that's not a problem, sir. So in case if there are any queries, you can just unmute yourself and ask the questions, or just type your questions in the chat box. But it's a very interesting session for me because I've been getting curious questions to answer. So there's a question from Mr. Balakrishna once again. Rechargeable battery life is few years after down life or any problem. So yeah. So before we use batteries in the battery pack, right? We see something called as cycle lives. So once the cycle life criteria of the manufacturer as well as the customer is decided. So overall, you might be aware that several manufacturers are giving warranty on the battery packs. Say for example, I can say Tesla has been given a warranty period for 1 lakh miles. So that's not a problem. But although the capacity of the battery is replenished, they can also be used for second life batteries. So they can also be in your home or in an inverter to power several applications as well. That's not a problem, sir. So any more questions? Yeah, participants, any more questions? Yeah, they can just unmute themselves or just pose a question. Yeah, just a second. What is programming methods used in upcoming hybrid vehicles like electric boats? Okay. So the upcoming program methods that's been widely used is basically the fuzzy loss system. So as far I've been using, I use something called as a Kalman filter in order to find the SOC of the vehicles. And there's PWM techniques. And in the recent times, I've been seeing programmers using machine learning as well as AI to configure a proper investigation as well as assess the life of the batteries and then figure out the adverse effects in the battery effect as well. And this question from Mr. Neelesh Singh. What improvements can we expect in the EV field by National Electrical Mobility Mission NWMP 2020? How much time will, sir? Sorry, I have no idea of any double MP plan. But in case if there's anything, you just unmute himself and just get to know what the policy is, so can just interact with you about the policies. And then there's a question from Mr. Thiru Murugan Vigneshwaran. Is it possible to do hybrid technology in vehicles with solar and wind? Yes. So when I was actually pursuing my master's right in Leeds, so I was working on solar powered electric vehicles with a startup company called Solar Transport Systems. So I have experience on developing solar powered electric vehicles because these are generally used for short commute distances where the intercity speed is less than 25 kilometers per hour. So if you're curious to learn about solar, right, I don't believe wind is an option because it has a huge adverse effect on the aerodynamics of the vehicle. But if you want to know about the solar vehicle technology, right, there's a company called Lightyear in Netherlands. So you can just visit their websites and get to know about the idea as well as the technology in detail. And yeah. So, in your professional opinion, how far are we near the hybrid or electrical airframe? So, I believe we are almost near. So, we are in the prototype stage as well as testing stage because you can see several German companies working on vertical takeoff and landing technologies as well. So, I believe it might be in the next 2 to 3 years in a rapid phase. So, there's the next question from Mr. Hari Prashant once again. So, what was the testing terminologies like softwares are used for production as well as quality? So in quality, you use something called as characterization data testing meters in order to assess. Yeah, this question from Mr. Srivatsan. Yeah, you can just open the queue. Yeah, yes, sir. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, I'm unable to find your name in the list. So yeah, no issues, Mr. Thiru. So you can just unmute yourself and ask a question, or just type your question in the chat box. I'll try to answer as much as I can, because it's a very interactive session which I've been saying for a long time. So yeah, so the question was, what way the testing terminals like softwares are used while production as well as quality. So in quality, we use something called as CMM technique to make sure that the product is designed as per our specifications. So there's a question from Buddhi saying, as per the news research, scientists say that they will soon manufacture solar panel with efficiency more than 27%. If it's possible, can we use it on EV roof for charging purpose? Yes, sir, that's what I'm saying. So I've worked on this technology, and since the vehicle is left idle for 80% of its life, you can actually harness energy from the solar panels in order to charge the vehicle or use the infotainment system when the vehicle is on an idle condition. So that's not a problem. Yeah, any more questions? Yeah, if there are any more questions, yeah, I would love to answer them because they're very interesting. Or I believe the participants can unmute themselves as well, to just ask a question or just type the questions in the battery. Okay. So we should use two different batteries instead of one single battery. I didn't get you because I've also been using hybrid battery pack in my solar boat vehicle, wherein which I use a lithium iron phosphate battery pack along with a lithium metal air battery pack. So it depends upon the application which you use in. So you can use multiple chemistries as well. The only thing that's going to increase is basically the complexity to the BMS. And then Abhijit Saha has asked anyone. Okay, sorry. So there's a question from Mr. Hari Prashant. Is there any safety specification or control system for man safety? Yes. So so first, coming on to the safety, it's a very important because the severity is very very high. So we are supposed to eliminate the severity as much as it can. So when there are high voltage cables, so when I say high voltage cables, it's the nominal voltage of the system is always greater than 48 volts. So when there is a high voltage system, right, all the main cables are supposed to be coated in orange color. And the second one is, before you disconnect the cable, you should make sure that the cable is not disconnected for multiple hours or days because of the static energy left in the battery pack. And then there's a question from Mr. Budhi once again. So, and two charging port and circuit? No, 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 no. It's a single port. So say for example, as I said, it depends upon the type of charging you use. So if you're on a level 1 or a level 2 or on a level 3, so there's several techniques called as CHAdeMO techniques. GBT charger that's been used in China. CHAdeMO is used in Japan. Then there's CCS2 that's been a protocol charging symbol by Daimler and the German companies. So it also depends upon the location you stay in, Mr. Budhi. So Neil Singh, what about the safety in EVs? Recently we saw a Tesla vehicle caught fire. Yeah. So so there are several safety systems that's been used in a vehicle. So before we configure all these things, we do something called as NCAP regulations or CAP regulation, which is basically new car assessment programs, wherein which the vehicle, almost 60 vehicles are subjected to crash analysis in order to assess the deformation in the vehicle or get to know the safety standard in the vehicle. So there are situations wherein which are beyond hand because it also depends upon the driver inputs as well. So you have a lot of safety systems that's been deployed in the vehicle and also identify the key defect in the vehicle as well before it's on a thermal runaway scenarios. Then there's a question from Mr. Budhi, sir, we should use two different batteries instead of one single battery, and we will provide two charging ports. And no, 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 no. You're using, say for example, when you're using two different chemistries, the positive and the negative terminal is connected to a single battery. What you're doing is, when first battery pack is generally getting discharged, you're using the energy stored in the secondary battery pack to charge the first battery pack. So this is basically called as high motion approach. Uh, should we have to use some specified battery for charging like recommended from the company, or else some other modifications or combinations of the battery? So before you use any battery or purchase any batteries from the market or from any other sources, you're first supposed to ask the characterization data from the manufacturer or the supplier. So what I mean by characterization data is basically the testing report by the manufacturer, so that you can just get to know the operating safety temperature as well as operating nominal voltages of the battery pack before you use the system in play. Yeah, any more questions? Okay, there's one question. Kundan Sharma has asked, we're only talking only of light motor vehicles, not for heavy vehicles. So for ma'am, so when we are talking of heavy vehicles, right, it depends upon the classification as well. So heavy duty vehicles are basically classified based on their curb weight. So when I say curb weight, it's basically the total weight of the vehicle as well. Say for example, if I give you an example for heavy vehicles such as an electrical bus, so so you need a battery pack of high energy density as well as less power densities. So that's not a problem. But when you want to deploy a heavy duty vehicle, right, I believe fuel cell electric vehicles are the best technologies that you can be used. And then this next question from Mr. Budi: can we use wireless charging in EVs? Does it harm human those sitting in the car? No, sir. It basically works on the principle of magnetic induction. So in case if you place your hand in between the gap of the primary as well as secondary coil, there is not at all a single problem. So it is, so they're generally classified on static wireless charging as well as dynamic wireless charging. So the only thing is large amount of current can't be supplied to it. That's the only key defect. Otherwise, it's completely friendly. That's not a problem. The next question is what impact we can expect on fossil fuel vehicles with extent of EV, since we are seeing much EV participation in commercial high load vehicles. So the biggest thing would be like slashing the oil prices if majority of the customers move to the electric vehicles as well as reduce the greenhouse emissions. So can you explain for the heavy vehicles in future markets? So if I want to talk about future markets, right? So there are the government has also released a mandate for FAME2 policies and also slashed the prices for electric buses in recent times. And when I say future markets, right, the subsidy cost for the batteries in the electric buses must be increased for ease of adoption. So if you want to look for a future trend, right, for heavy duty vehicles, what I see is basically the fuel cell electric vehicles dominating heavy duty vehicle market. So design of EV is used in MATLAB. Which type of application? So yeah. So what I do is I design the powertrain basically in MATLAB and simulate to get to know the basic vehicle efficiencies. And also there are several softwares basically from GT Suite, AVL and FEVs as well. So, what is the environment impact on the production and disposal of batteries? Good question. So, what we are doing at the moment is basically limiting the usage of cobalt, because the cobalt extraction is a very deadly process, and we are trying to increase the nickel content in the batteries, so which can increase the specific energy densities of the chemistries. So so when we are so once the battery has depleted its energy, right, we do something called as battery recycling. So when we do battery recycling, we are extracting all the key materials or chemistries from the batteries so that it can be used further in the new manufactured batteries. I did not get you, Mr. Buddhi. Is you specifying, sir? Buddhi is title. Please tell full name. Okay, sorry to mispronounce your name, Mr. All and Dual Land. So there's a question from Mr. Neela Singh. Have our electricity department defined any electric tariff policies? Yeah. So there is a different tariff policies for electric grid stations, and the key interesting fact is every citizen has a right to set up their own public stations as well. So I believe you must visit heavy duty MSDB department or electricity grid department to get to know about the various incentives that's been offered in your state as well. So it varies from state to state. So which braking technology? Just a second. Excuse me. So which braking technology we will use in EV? Recent braking or mechanical braking? So So first of all, regenerative braking is a technique that you can enhance the range of the vehicle. So as you might be knowing that kinetic energy is basically half mv square. So regenerative energy braking is only deployed or it has a better reasonable applications only in high speed applications, not in low speed applications. So when you're using low speed applications, right, you can use mechanical brakes. That's not a problem. And there's a question from Mr. Hari Prashant. In EVs firm battery to the motor, there it starts a torque, but when we are using motor, there will be induction loads. In order to save energy, is there any capacity to control loads? Yeah, so when there is a high requirement of torque, right, you use something called as super capacitors within a short period of time to supply high loads of current to the vehicle in order to avoid high load on the battery packs. And then I've heard somewhere that nickel mining is not eco-friendly. Is it? Yeah, there are some chemistries that are very harmful, but that's there's a question from Mr. Someone has actually raised, but you're trying to increase the nickel content, and that's not a problem. And then environmental science, I didn't get you. Will it be useful for environment to use diesel engine to create electricity for charging the vehicle? So this has been widely a meme actually, basically generating electricity with the help of generator and then charging the vehicle, because you're increasing the emissions of the vehicle. You're trying to The main motive of using electric vehicles is to minimize the dependency of fossil fuels. So are EVs really considered as renewable energy vehicle because we are generating most of our electricity from fossil fuels? Yeah. So there is a report from Australian Energy Commission. So it states that there is no offset load on the thermal energy plants. And then, as far as you know, India is the largest manufacturer of solar energy, and the government is trying as much as it can to use sustainable energy and financial incentives to charge the vehicle. For how long will our EV be environmental friendly until unless you use sustainable energy? So what are the source of extracting these kind of batteries like core materials? I believe you're supposed. I have no idea on the extraction chemistries or battery manufacturing techniques, because I generally deal with or work with batteries once it's assembled in the battery pack. So sorry, I can't generally answer this question because it's basically all about mining and metallurgy. So in case if there are any questions, yeah, the participants are free to ask, because we have almost five more minutes, I believe.
So, guys, we'll be wrapping up the session in the next 5 minutes. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Hello.
Uh, yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. In case of any short circuit or any some malfunction, is there any protective layer for these batteries, or because it could have an impact for a human?
Sir, I didn't get you. So can you repeat your question?
No, no, no. Just if in case of any short circuit or malfunction in the circuit or batteries,
Yeah.
so is there any protective layer or to
Yes.
protect the man
Yes.
for an electrocuted?
Yeah. So you have various protective systems that's been used in the battery pack. So, for example, you have a protective system in the cell itself. So once you see the positive terminal in a cell, right, that's been used in your vehicle, there's something called as pressure valve. So once the batteries exceed the desired pressure valve, so the pressure valves will generally open in the cell and vent out all the gases. So you also have something called as silicones that's been used in order to separate the battery packs as well, and also use something called as battery potting in order to like ensure that the vibrations as well as the disturbances in the battery pack is avoided. And you also use several techniques while detecting the faulty cell in the battery pack, so that's not a problem. So the key input for fire hazards in basic recent times is basically the inputs given by the driver as well. So it's not only the manufacturer that's been responsible, it's also the driver who is also responsible for the malfunction of the vehicle as well. Yeah, and then someone has actually raised their hand as well. Shavyog. Yeah, Mr. Shoy.
Sir, in your professional opinion, which system is the best for performance of vehicles? Is it series hybrid, parallel hybrid, or power split hybrid?
Yeah, it's a nice question. But as far as I know, hybrid vehicles are generally used to provide better fuel economy, sir. Not for performance. They are generally used to provide.
S-
Yeah.
Sir, there exist performance cars which, because of the hybrid system, have performance much greater than that of uh, normal vehicles.
Sir, as far as I know, series, parallel, as well as split hybrids are generally they're widely used in order to provide less load on IC engines and also improve the performance of the vehicle. So these are widely used during start-stop conditions or during your traffic scenarios, wherein which the engine can be stopped and your electric motor can be turned on in order to provide you a better torque. So when we say hybrid, it's basically using two source of energy to propel the vehicle. I'm not saying no, but the key intention of hybrid electric vehicles is not on performance, it's on delivering a proper what I can say, uh, enhancing the mileage of your vehicle. So that's the key reason of developing hybrid vehicles. So in case there are any vehicles that have superior performance in hybrid vehicle segment, I would like to know the vehicle name so that I can actually give you a proper specification as well.
Sir, I can type it in the chat box.
Yeah, just type it in the chat box, that's not a problem to me.
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Is there any soft starter like VFD or something is using in this motors?
What does VFD stand for, sir? Yeah, for your
Very
example, yeah,
basic
Mr.
introduction.
Koniseng, you're specifying it as Koenigsegg Gregor or McLaren P1. So
Huh.
I've been working also with McLaren as well because I did my internship from McLaren. So first you need to know what exactly is a hybrid vehicle is. So yeah, so first you need to know what exactly the hybrid configuration is, and the type of chemistry that's been used in Koenigsegg Gregor has been manufactured by Rimac, which is in Croatia. That is for a high power densities, not for high specific energies. First, get to know the difference between a hybrid vehicle as well as super hybrid vehicles, and then just pose a question. Thanks. Yeah,
Okay,
Mr.
sir.
Prashant. Yes, Mr. Prashant. Yeah, any more questions, sir?
So when we generate electricity through the stator engine, uh, there will be high efficiency, right?
Sir, your voice is breaking out, sir.
Sorry. When we generate electricity
Yes.
through stator engines, there will be high efficiency, right?
Sorry, stator engines.
Yeah.
Sir, I believe
Big,
stator windings or
I,
stator engines.
no, like diesel and petrol engine, big,
Hello.
big engines, right? That
Yeah, sorry, you just muted yourself. Yeah, you can just ask a question, Mr. Parun Jacob.
that big engines, not in the car, but used to generate electricity.
Sir, when you say not in cars, what type of engines are you talking of? Yeah, any more questions, sir? Oh, ma'am, any more questions? Because I believe we're gonna end the session in next 3 minutes, I believe. Yeah, in case if there are any questions, you can just type it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask a question.
So we'll be wrapping up the session. So if you have any doubts, you can connect to Silvertex for the next sessions and also details.
Yeah, we have 3 more minutes. Any queries or any questions? Yeah.
Any more questions? Hari Prashant, you will be getting some information, getting information on all the sessions by tomorrow. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, surely.
Jain sir.
Hi,
Yes, sir.
Prithvi. Really, thanks
No,
for
no,
your
no. It's
session.
always
Thanks.
a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day, Mr. Shivan. Thanks, Mr. Rajashri Acharya. I believe we should ask.
Thank you, sir.
Contacting you, Mr. Shoyong, for the future sessions and everything. We'll be giving you all the details about that. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, Prithviraj. It was a nice session.
No issues, Mr. Shah. Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe, is it the end of the meeting?
Yeah, yeah, it's the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah, thank you. So Shivraj, the session is already over. You joined really late. Guys, you may leave the session. Mr. Aditya, the session is already ended and you joined really late. I'm sorry for that. You were really late. The session timing was from 6 to 7. You may leave the session, guys.